In the 90s, I had an enormous awakening. I wrote a book called Hear the Silence.
Yes.
Yes. Which I know that I think you read, of course.
Yeah.
You asked me in messages about it. And so I've had this blessed life. You know, my mother was ill, so we didn't always have a lot of money. We were lower middle class, you know, all that stuff. But my life has been blessed compared to millions of people. And mainly, Scott, I got to do what I dreamed of doing, what I worked on, which was music, of course. And so I was playing with Manhattan Transfer in Yugoslavia, and there was bombing over the top of the hotel. Let me rewrite that. We heard bombing it wasn't over the hotel. It was an hour away even. But we were told it's time to get out. So the U.S. Embassy helped us. We got out of Dodge. And after the long, long flight, I arrived in Los Angeles, where I was living. And I get off the flight. I drive from Los Angeles Airport, LAX, to my apartment in the San Fernando Valley. I just put my suitcase down, a couple things, and started to get comfortable. And the room started to shake and shake. And then it shook like I've never, ever, ever experienced. I had been in one or two smaller earthquakes. But this, of course, ended up the Northridge earthquake of '94.
I was out there for that.
Yeah. Where were you at that time?
North Hollywood, on Riverside. I lived
so
probably not far from you, right?
Well, I was in North Hills, which is once called Sepulveda, but they broke that city up. One part is where you can buy drugs, and the other part is where you live. So I lived in North Hills, which was 1 mile and a quarter from the epicenter in Northridge. And the way the land went, we got hit really hard. To be honest with you, I lost a friend. There was a building that collapsed 3 floors down on Reseda Boulevard. I lost a friend in that. He was crushed to death. And our building survived. I was taken out by firemen. I had traveled all night long. I was in my underwear. Now, here's a guy with a pretty big ego just off the tour, and I'm in my jockey bikini underwear in the middle of Woodley Avenue in North Hills, California, and I don't really want to be there.
And you don't know it at this point, but your life has just taken a dramatic turn.
My life is...
Like the switch has been flipped.
Correct.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Of course, there is, for those of you out there who don't experience earthquakes on a regular basis, there are aftershocks. So we were told by the fire department not to go back until they could rate our apartments, which would be within a week. So I had a Mustang, a hatchback, and a dog, Bubbles, and we both went in the car. But I didn't sleep. I don't remember sleeping for 3 days, actually. I didn't want to eat. And people were coming around with food. You know, there were a lot of people out there trying to help us because the whole building was outside. I didn't want to do anything. I thought, I mean, you'd have to, in the book, I talk about the fact that I actually thought I died.
Yeah.
And I give the reasons for that, but, you know, hopefully someone will want to read the book sometime. And not because I want to sell books. I want to help others because I've been very fortunate here. So anyway, I'll condense this. Life started to get back to normal. Got back in the apartment. But nothing was normal. I don't know. Someone's been in a deep dream or something, or a nightmare, or maybe been so drunk or stoned they don't know that there's still them. But I was in this place that I could not describe. I had no interest in anything.
One of the darkest holes, by the way, I've ever heard been described by anybody.
It was the thing is that I'll never forget it. Um, but to actually be in it is very strange. And one of the and a big part of the reason why I wrote Hear the Silence is because of the fact that I was, excuse my language, saved. Um, when I first, for the 6 months after that night, things got progressively worse. Um, I started to cancel gigs. I had no interest in playing. I had no interest in showering. I had no interest in eating until I was so. The only thing I knew somehow inherently I had to do was give love to my dog, Bubbles. So the only time I left to see the daylight was to walk her. I didn't talk to people. People would talk to me and I wouldn't even respond. I mean, it was like and I could see it's like it's not schizophrenia, but you can see that this person you are is not who you were, but it's still you, so you don't change it. And before you knew it, I mean, again, it's more descriptive in the book, but I had pawned 16 instruments, some as much as $7,000 instruments or $10,000 for $80 and lost it. I was borrowing money to eat. I had students that would take food to my house because people thought I was either on drugs, suicidal, and I don't blame any of them.
Yeah, nobody could figure it out. No,
No. I had people praying for me. I had, it was, and I was living at home, so I get a job. I needed money more than anything at the time. I wanted to eat. I have a job for $400. I'd say, oh, screw it. Well, one day, I was telling you off the air yesterday, one day I got called to do this wonderful gig at the Mountain Gate Country Club, a very luxurious country club. I was the band leader, paid $400. There was a lot of clients. They would have hired us. And I said, I'm not going. This is the key. It wasn't that I don't want to go. I said, I'm not going. To myself. The gig was in 4 hours. All I had to do was get a guitar, put my tuxedo on. But I said, I'm not going.
Like you lost your will?
No, this is the thing that's most difficult about this thing. I have no idea how any of this happens. I'm not going meant I am not going. I'm going to watch TV. So everything that it meant, I'm letting 8 other musicians down. The company's going to get sued. The bride and the groom are not going to have the band leader they hired. It didn't matter. There was like this, like you hear about these people that, God forbid, kill people in a movie theater and then they interview them. They have no remorse. I mean, it's very hard to understand it, but your brain shuts off. It shut off. So I didn't have an emotion because I didn't care about being there because it didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered. It's this black hole that I was in was like nothing. I mean, I could explain it on a million interviews to all my friends in a book, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to talk about it so people understand. Because most of the time people think, well, he was just really depressed, But because I'm pretty manic, even now at 62 years old, I'm always, my arms are like this, Jonathan Wolfe, the composer for Seinfeld and 20 other shows, my dear, dear friend, he came over. He says, I know you a long time. I've never seen you stoned. I've never seen you drunk. I've never seen you do this. He said, excuse me, I don't know where this will air aside from
Let
YouTube.
it rip, man. It's all good.
But he says, you're fucked up. And I said, no, I'm not. I actually said, no, I'm not. He said, you know what? He says, you don't dress well. You're not shaving. You smell. And all this kind of stuff, right? And I hated him for a minute. I really did. Because I thought I was fine. He said, I'll tell you what. You've been fired. You lost 30 jobs with this office, this entertainment company. You did this. These guys won't hire you because they think you're a stoner now. He says, you got nothing. He said, all you got is me, Seinfeld, Married with Children, a couple of shows. He says, if you don't get help, I'm firing you. And I knew at that moment, for one thing, I would never let Jonathan Wolf down. I loved him. But I also knew that if he took these union checks away, I mean, I was completely where I thought I was headed, homeless. There was nothing left, nothing, zero. I went from playing,
And you gave it away, right?
Then I gave, yeah,
you gave it away.
I gave it away. So he said, I'll tell you what. He says, like I said, if you don't get therapy, you don't get help, we're done. You're finished. I said, I can't afford therapy. I said, anyway, I'm not fucked up. He says, I'm telling you, you're fucked up. And I am going to pay for as much therapy as you need. And not only that, I'm going to get you the best therapist in the world. Now, my car had been repossessed. I had no way to get around, so this was going to be another problem already. Everything was a mess. I don't want to cry on your show, man. Jonathan called Dr. Richard Alpers, who ended up the head of the entire California Mental Association. He was at UCLA, which was about an hour from where I lived, 50 minutes. And John would wake up early and do Seinfeld and other shows that were his living and his family's living, and then pick me up and take me there. I mean, this is
huge.
It's huge. It's an angel. And then there were others who did that because I couldn't let John do this. By the way, Jonathan kind of asked me never to tell people that he was the angel that saved my life. It's too bad, Jonathan. Because I've done maybe a couple hundred interviews, and I say I work for Jonathan, but I've never said this. You're my friend, Scott. So anyway, comes a point in your life you have to tell the truth, or not the truth, but let it go. So you're the first interview I've ever told this. So there was a couple people, Brian. It won't matter. I won't list all the people that saved me. They know who they are, and they drove me. If I made $80 on a gig or $100, I'd slip them $20, but they didn't ever want the money. And eventually, even if I gave them $20, I was so hungry they take me to their house and feed me. I mean, this was unbelievable. And Richard Alpers was a genius. He asked me right away, "What is it you want? What do you want? What do you want in life? What do you desire?" And I told him. I said, I want to be like Mother Teresa, and I want to be like Mahatma Gandhi, and I want to be like Jesus Christ. And he asked me, is it just about the fact that I thrive on attention, that I need validation, that there's no Jamie Glaser without the audience? And we talked about that, and there is an element of that, yes. But there was this overwhelming feeling that I needed to help others, that these people, and that was pretty much the list. I think I also listed Anthony Robbins, but I mean, the bigger picture for me was Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, and Jesus Christ. And I'm not a Christian, but I know the power of Christianity for many. So, and he sat me down. He had his yellow pad. Now you've been to therapy, right, Scott? So I don't know how.
A little bit.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, a lot of times they just let you talk. I went to one other before him. Yeah, it was just like a pad and I talk. And I was waiting for suggestions, waiting for him to yell at me. Nothing. He's just like, keep talking. He says to me, he says, you're never going to be like Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi or help anybody. He says, because you can't help yourself. That's what he says to me. And I remember I sat in his office. I said, that's the most selfish thing I ever heard. I said, I'm telling you, I want to help everybody in the world. I want to make people happy. And you're telling me that I need to make myself happy. I said, how is that going to help anybody? I was such a fucking moron. And that's what I'm telling the doctor. But he taught me. He said, if you're not filled with love, you can't give love away. If you don't have confidence, you can't give confidence away. If you have no money, you can't feed the poor. If you don't write in a book or a poem or a song to help others, they can't be helped. And he had a list, and I can't even remember, and this stuff's not in the book. And I sat there, and it was like, if you believe in God or universe, that was my moment.
Yep.
That was my moment, Scott.
Yep.
You can't give away what you don't have. So, if I would have told him I want to be a carnival barker, I guess he could have come up with a couple of reasons for that. But that's not what it was. At this point in my life, as low as I was, as empty as I was, as depressed as I was, all I could think of is, I'm worth shit because I can't help anybody else. So we began this journey together to find a way to fill me with the kind of confidence to give it away, to show other people that this world is extraordinary, that no matter how far you fall, you can always get up if you reach out to others. And if you help others, and you stop, it's one thing to fill yourself, it's another one to just be in your own world all the time. He made sure I got out of Jamie's world, because he says, you have chinchillas, they go on a wheel just like hamsters. He says, that's what you're doing. He says, you get on the wheel, you say you're depressed, and the more you say you're depressed, the more depressed you get, the bing, bing. He says, and you don't get off the wheel. He says, we need to take the wheel out of the cage.
Yep. I got goosebumps right now because you know what I'm listening to you because I didn't get this part from the book, this description right here, and I'm saying to myself, like, you had to hit your bottom, right? So this was happening, but you weren't deliberately doing this. This is something that happened to you and enlightened you, and
yes,
right?
Yes.
And there's this book that has been a profound book, and it's always the simplest freaking things. That, like, these lessons that are the most profound lessons, it's are the simplest lessons. We just, some reason they don't connect until something dramatic has to happen, and then the simple thing connects, and all doors open. And there's the Velveteen Rabbit, that little book. You were talking about rabbits before, right?
Yeah. I'm
Real isn't how you are made; it's a thing that happens to you. That's the moral of the story.
Wow, Velveteen.
Real isn't how you are made; it's a thing that happens to you. And I'm just saying to myself, your breakthrough moment, what you had to go through, it's so traumatic. But it was your breakthrough. Everything has changed. If you don't see that darkness, the light never comes out.
Right. Well, it's funny because people would say, look, Jamie, you've always been spoiled, and you need to play the blues in order to know what's happy. And I fought them on that because I wrote sad songs, and I wrote ballads, and I wrote poetry and all kinds of stuff about loss and whatever. Because you remember, I lost my mother when I was 14. Yeah. My father died on my birthday.
Yeah, but you know what? It comes from your head because you're thinking at that point. Now, this is like your soul just went through like an upheaval.
Yeah, no question.
Everything's different now.
Correct. You're 100%. And the thing is, Scott, and people listening out there, hi. The genius of Dr. Elpers was that he indeed gave away, what he had. He had his smarts. He didn't sit there with Freudian exercises. He didn't go through, he asked me a bit about my past, but I was at a therapist before him. Actually, it's not a psychiatrist, but a psychologist, who said, well, your mother died when you were 14 and she was sick most of your life. That's why you're fucked up. And this, which, in college, I had 2 years of psychology class. I knew all that. I knew the whole concept of a lot of traditional therapy. But Elpers, he said, what's important to you? And then as soon as he found out, he says, well, you're not going to be able to do that unless you do this, 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 and this. And the therapy ended up to be also, by the way, life-changing. Well, that was life-changing. But life-changing in the way that I save money, how I spend, how I give charity, all kinds of things. A little example. I walked in.
All things, by the way, you probably took for granted up until that
Yes.
breakthrough.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Scott. And I had made more money than I had been making that month. And Dr. Elpers asked me to bring in my checkbook. Well, the thing is, Jonathan Wolfe was paying for my therapy. And it would, by the way, I learned later how expensive it was. This was pretty serious stuff, right? It's just the head of UCLA at the time. He says, bring your checkbook. Now, I'll be honest with you. To this day, I just got a little mini lecture when I bought this house because I don't keep a checkbook, right? The lady I'm dating or date, she's like, how could you not know how to balance a checkbook? And some things haven't changed completely, but he says, I sit down. He says, what is that? I said, it's a checkbook. He says, and what do you do with checks? I told him. He says, and how do you get checks? Remember, I was broke. I had given up all my instruments. I was living at a friend's house for $400 a month in a little room at this point. He said, so you made some money this month, right? I said, yeah. He says, and how did you do that? I said, well, Dr. Elpers, I went and I played. And I had been with him a couple of months, and he was silent. He said, I asked you how you got paid. For what did you get paid? I said, well, I told you. I went out and played. I played a bunch of gigs. And Dr. Elpers said, we're done. And I said, what do you mean we're done? He says, you didn't play. He says, that's what 12-year-olds do. When you play, you don't get paid. He says, you worked. You went to work. And this was as big as the other moment because I was, whatever I was then, 49 years, 50 years old, 94. He says, you've never worked. That's why your friends own a big house in LA and you live in a piece of crap apartment. You have never worked. That's why you're paying, you have this old car and they have a Porsche. Because
the point is that you're not putting a value on your craft, your talent.
It was, yes, that and also a little growing up. Because somehow I looked
growing up.
A little growing up. And he says, you are never going to work for free again. He says, if you work for your brother, you charge him. He says, if that means that he's going to buy you lunch, he says, this is work. This is what you love. I said, but I love doing this. I love it. I can't live without the guitar. He says, and it's funny because now I give lectures all around the world, TED style, where I tell people and I teach them, never work for free. Never devalue yourself because it's way deeper than the fact that now I own a home and before I was in a room the size of the bathroom in this home with my synthesizer, guitar, and tuxedo and chinchilla. I mean, it was different. It's only changing the focus. The amount of money didn't change much. The perception.
Yeah.
And
right. Which is the fucking lack of a bet. That's the difference maker.
It's the difference. It's everything.
Totally. Yeah.
It is. And we have people who love us and give us ideas and comfort. We have therapists. We have this. But we have within us this unbelievable power. And you and I talked off the air a few minutes when we were checking microphones and talking about that it's really hard sometimes when you're reading a book or listening to an interview like this and you say, well, that's easy for him. That's easy for her. They already got the money, so they're telling us how to make money. They don't care. They're just going to make more money. So that's why I priced a lot of my courses where I'm making $1 and where everybody else is making 50. I want people to know I'm for real. And so right now I'm writing almost finished actually, writing a book called The Magic Pencil. And this book is very important to me because this magic pencil is going to be the tool that my readers use to rewrite their life experience. And I'm going to show them in this book, this journey, how to do this. And why can I do this without being a shrink, a psychologist, or whatever? Is because that's what I did.
Yeah.
I rewrote it. So
Nothing rings truer than that, by the way. I mean,
yeah, I mean, and I can say, look, this worked. If it works for you, I'm thrilled. But I do feel that more importantly than being a shredder guitar player ever, or making money or whatever, is that I need to assist other people.
yep.
I need to let them know that there's, I did write in the book, I felt like I was born again. I don't know what it is to be a Christian or born again. You read about, oh, just someone, but the thing is that I'm always like electrified, always living. Now, I live in Utah. There's a predominant religion here, which is called the LDS, Latter-day Saints, Mormons.
Right.
I'm not a Mormon. They're beautiful people. I love them. And Utah's changed a lot in the 16 years I've been here. When I first got here, that a lot of Christian religions are based a lot on missionaries and missions, spreading the gospel.
Right.
And LDS is really about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
requirement to 2 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they go on a mission, and when I first moved here, growing up with being a Jew and practicing Buddhism, SGI Buddhism, not the kind with Buddha, everybody I met, I'd go to dinner, they'd say, well, let me read you from the Book of Mormon, or let me teach you this, or let me teach you that. And I started to learn, and I really love these people. I like their book. I have their Book of Mormon downstairs. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm doing a new album. I'm going to give you a surprise track. Mm-hmm. It's called Grateful Am I, and I'm going to do some of the hymns from this area, only they sound more like Jeff Lorber than the LDS Church.
Okay.
But living here, I know you don't live in New York City, has shown me, given me kind of a, what do they call it at the air controllers at the airport? What do they call it? The who? Air traffic controller.
Traffic controller, yeah.
Yeah. Now I live in a modest home. 2 blocks to my right is a little pond, a nice pond. Behind that is the Utah Lake, which is nice, dirty but nice. Then 2 blocks the other way are cows, chickens, sheep. And moving to this house has been extremely emotional and wonderful. But I feel like the air traffic controller, because from where I am, I can see outside of here, which is a lot like Mayberry here. I mean, there's a movie called Pleasantville, I believe. Yeah. That's what this is. I mean, my street, the kids leave their bicycles out on the front lawn. The people leave their garages open. When I go to the gas station, like if it's cold, people leave their cars running, so they go in and buy their milk, their beer, their whatever they buy.
That ain't happening in 5 boroughs.
No. And I recognize, by the way, it's not crime-free here. We have a heroin problem, all kinds of stuff.
No, we're legit, man. We've got some violence, too.
We're cool. That's funny, because a lot of us, you'll notice that here. People go, we're normal. We have crime.
Don't call me vanilla.
Okay, right. No, it's true. And even I just did it, too, didn't I? But it's true, and
tomorrow I'm going to run with scissors. Fucking crazy.
So I just I go around and it's like, I can see, well, you can look at social media too and see it. A lot of people are hurting.
Yeah.
And the more we get technology, and like I mentioned earlier, I have a successful social media marketing company.
Yeah.
And I like it. And I like it. And you know why I like it?
Go ahead.
Being honest with you, because I'm helping people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these social media marketing agencies
are money grabs.
They're charging $1,000 or $3,000 a month.
Yep.
I charge $500 a month, and I'm on their sites twice a day. I just had I'm doing an artist called Nightcore Reality. We looked at the insights after 9 days. Everything's up over 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And so I sat in here. So what happens? Jamie gets happy. He gets his validation. I got a check from Beverly Hills. Everything's happening. The artist is thrilled, right?
Yeah.
So it's giving me the same kind of joy I kind of get from playing a show, and I don't have to gouge people, you know. But at the same token, because of my presence on social media, people open up to me, and also because of the book.
Yeah.
So this year I've had 3 people that I've helped not commit suicide on Facebook. They messaged me. I stayed up all night with them. I don't usually give my phone number out, so I called. I had 1 helped, and the other 2 are doing well. But generally, people write all the time. I mean, it's more like that. Can you help me? I'm sad. I lost my brother. This happened. I have no money, whatever. And they're not asking me for money. I'm just saying. They're reaching out. But what I keep noticing is that, and I've been told just recently by this very nice guy, he says, I'm going, and I told you this, I think, I'm going to unfriend you, Jamie. I hope you won't be angry. And I was like, first of all, the guy probably knows my ego's so big that if the guy unfriends me, I'm going to be sad, right? And I said, why would you unfriend me? I said, I don't delete anybody, you know. He said, because I come to your page. I'm very happy for you. You're always promoting some new product. You're always showing some cool place you're at with your animals. You're always happy. You just, you know, you had the GoFundMe for your house. You had $20,000 given you by Facebook people. You had this. He says, and every time I go to your page, I get sadder and more depressed because my life is not like your life. My life sucks. And on and on and on. And I was like, I never saw that side of this. What I thought was, if I post on my Facebook that I just went to the lake with my bird, it will brighten somebody's day.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, well, it's sunny here, it's not sunny there, you know.
Yeah.
But it taught me something, Scott, you know. And so, in order to help people, so I'm really happy with doing stuff on social media and having these moments. The thing is, Scott, and I know you pretty well now, is if you have a moment, you have a lesson, you have a word or a phrase or an image that's positive, that you think can change you, can intensify the greatness of your life, of your day, of your moment, right? Then don't skip over it. I mean, when I wrote Hear the Silence, I said in the book, I said what happened in this book was I remember these stories. Well, most people don't. I tell a story about a guy with cerebral palsy in the book.
The guy who lives in your building.
Chris Haneke.
Yeah.
And the point was that he started me to realize that every day of my life, every single day, I see something that I say to myself, hey, man, am I lucky?
Yeah.
You know?
Gratitude, man.
Man. But I never, it lasts for 2 seconds.
I know, man. It's so fleeting, man.
Like, okay,
yeah.
good.
How about when you catch that moment, you going, you know, really, I got so much to be grateful for, man. I mean, and you really capture the magnitude of how important gratitude is, and 2 seconds later, you're fucking road raging, or you know, like it's. I mean, it's so fleeting. It's not even comical.
That's the thing.
You constantly pull yourself back.
So that was another thing with Elpers, with the doctor. He said, look, if you can find a way to internalize those things, right? Internalize that lesson of being grateful, then the road rage or the bill or the person who pisses you off, who steps on your lawn, it becomes small potatoes. It becomes smaller.
How do you do? What's your way of internalizing it? Do you meditate?
I do. I meditate. I've been doing a form of meditation since 1977.
Wow.
And I believe that's changed me. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know, there's a music show called the NAMM Show, right? Have you ever been?
No.
So it's the Association of Music Merchants. Every year It's actually in Nashville, but the big one is in California every year in January. You've seen it, every year the musicians get together, all the music stores, all the distributors, and it's at the Anaheim Convention Center. And what happens is you notice that everybody's got their idea of how the music business is. You talk to people and they're, it sucks. I'm not getting the kind of work I used to like this. And the thing is that I won't focus on that, on any of that. There's a big saying. They said, if you want peace, do not say no more war. This is a big deal, Scott.
Right. I know where you're going. I got it. Yeah.
Don't no more war, because if your image is of no more war, you're seeing the violence. You're seeing
the war. Yeah.
You see peace. You see flowers and love and kindness. So when you ask about how I do it, and I do it, is that I won't allow the other to be in my life. Yeah. Look, I'm doing an interview with a famous guy, you, and wonderful people are watching out there. Thank you, by the way, all for watching.
We got a great
and listening. And this poor guy's gonna have to edit for 40 days to make this make sense. I just don't let it happen. The problem is when people, just like I said about the Facebook, they'll watch this interview and say, "What kind of person is this Jamie Glaser? Who doesn't get angry? Who doesn't get sad? Well, he's nuts." The thing is, I do, but it don't last long.
Yeah.
It doesn't last long, and I don't hold it in because I have these tools, and that's why I wrote the book and writing a new book, because the only issue with writing books and all of this is that very often the people who need these books the most, they don't get them.
Right.
They're too depressed, too sad, no money, whatever, to get it. That's why
you have to seek the solution to find the solution.
Yeah, that's man, well said. Holy cow. You do. And nothing's, I like to say everything's perfect. Everybody's like, nothing's perfect. It's a perfect day, man. It's a perfect day. I mean, and I tell when I do these lectures, these seminars, even in the music business, I ask them, I said, tell me what you did last Wednesday at 1:30. And there's a soul that can do it. I said, so what's so important about the argument you had with your girlfriend today? It doesn't matter. There are things that matter. Obviously, there's some violence that's happened on our planet that we need to try to change or help people if they're mentally out there and they're shooting people up.
But it's also how you go about change as well.
Correct. It's about, and I don't want to pretend to be any smarter than I am. All I can tell you is that if someone asked me what my greatest blessings were in this lifetime, it would be to know what happiness is, I think.
Can I just think, based on what reading your book and what you've shared today, I don't know if that is possible for you to be where you're at without having to go through the trauma that you had to go through. I mean, the level of gratitude that you're going to have because of what you felt firsthand. Yes. There's really, there's such a, it's not even a silver lining. It's like a bright light in that gray cloud. Dark cloud, not even gray.
No, way dark cloud. But you could talk to people in all facets of life. People that find their religion or whatever, they quit a habit and they're brighter. They found something. And I think everybody finds that. You can get it through therapy, through a 12-step meeting, through whatever you're going through. You have to be able. The other thing is, even in the movie The Secret or the book The Secret, they talk about the fact that if you don't accept it, if you do not accept happiness, health, wealth, it doesn't come.
Yep. And so many of us are so conditioned to not trust that concept.
Correct.
I mean, don't drink the Kool-Aid, man. Don't do it.
No, I've had people very close to me. I wanted to go to London twice in 1 year, and I just okay, work. I don't want to waste the money or whatever. And I sat here and I said, well, I'm going to manifest the trip. And this person that was in my house, who I'm very close to, said, "You're out of your mind, man." And I said, "Well, I told them about it, and I reminded them because they had seen the movie The Secret, where the guy's looking for a parking spot. Remember that part of the? I don't know if you've seen it. He's looking for a parking spot. Suddenly, parking spots show up.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's the way it is.
It is if you allow that in.
It is, but you have to. I mean, does that mean I'm going to win the lottery today? No. But you know what? I'm on my 7th year of 7 days a week playing the Publisher Clearinghouse, and I have never stopped. Right? I'm getting personal letters from Debbie Holland, the owner of Publisher Clearinghouse, begging me to make an order. I won't do it. Right? I wrote them a letter. I said, "Look, when you give me a prize, I don't care if it's $10, I'll make an order. Until that point, I'm waiting for the 26 million anyway."
I'll tell you something. When you said about the therapy too, I had 2 breakthrough moments. One was I got confronted by the first therapist I ever went to, by the way. And after just really early in this, just a couple of sessions, he goes to me, and the guy was kind of a dick too, by the way. He was kind of like, it's weird, man. But he goes to me, let me ask you a question. What are you afraid of? Is it fear of success or fear of failure? Now, I've never been asked that question before, so I was kind of like, I don't know, fear of failure, obviously fear of failure. And he looks at me right in the eye without missing a beat. He goes, "Why? You're great at it."
Wow.
I want to jump over the table, right? And he, it was like getting punched with the truth. And now when he explains it to me, it's about the responsibility of success and maintaining it and this and that. And you don't want to grow up. You don't want to. It's the confrontation, which is very similar to what your guy did to you. He confronted you, man. He forced you to take a look at what you needed to see. And that's another, for lack of a better word, that's an awakening in itself.
It is. So you had one of your moments at that time. The thing is that had you not accepted what that means or even think about it, there are people, look, I'm not neither you or I are idiots. I mean, there are people out there who are deep in trouble, and medication doesn't help them.
Yep.
All kinds of, I mean, sometimes medication is the worst. Sorry, pharmacist business out there, pharmaceutical, but it can be the worst thing. It was horrible for me. I mean,
well, that's a good thing that you just, if you could stay on that thing too, because that is the big thing with the issue that you had, with if you want to call it PTSD or you want to call it depression or whatever term you want to put to the condition, the fact that you're dealing with it now without medication and how many tragedies have come from the medication, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a place for both approaches, but not enough people realize that you have to change your behavior and there is light at the end of the tunnel.
What is that saying? I don't know if it's God helps those who help themselves. And whether you put the word God in there or not, it's true. You have to. I mean, that's why I'm writing this book, The Magic Pencil, which is completely about you changing. It's completely the reader will guide themselves to success in this book if I'm successful with it. Mm-hmm. And I expect to be successful because I'm manifesting success, and there it is. By the way, when I say this to you in an interview like this, I want you to know, and the listeners, look, I'm a human being. I'll go out and watch a guitar player on YouTube and for 10 minutes go, "Oh, why can't I do that? Why do I suck?" I mean, I'm a human being, but I think the overall picture of being happy and all that stuff is a big deal. Now, PTSD, when I was first diagnosed, as I was starting to explain a couple hours ago, I was exuding the behavior of someone manic depressed because I was really dark, and yet I'm a manic jumpy guy and get excited and inspired in big, bigger than a lot of other people. So they gave me Prozac. And then I got another medication because Prozac made me suicidal. And I never thought about suicide ever. They gave me Depakote. I know you told me a personal story, which I won't repeat. But I know about a lot of that. So before I even started to get better, I thought one day, now this is killer, one day I'm going to be okay. And when I am, I'm going to write a book to help others. I don't know how to do it because I'm not okay right now. This is after I told John Wolfe I wasn't messed up, but I knew I was messed up, you know. So the thing is with PTSD, which is different, is you get, or you can be extremely depressed. You can be extremely not engaged in life, but it usually happens from something that's very abrupt. You're in war, and your fellow officer gets killed in the trench right next to you. You get a hand grenade. You hear bombs going off. It doesn't stop. You see children being killed. You get, a car accident. I have a very dear friend who was in a car accident 2 years ago, and she's still in trouble. I mean, if I stop the car short, she flips. Same thing with me. It took about 10 years for me to be able to go to Los Angeles without flipping out. Always.
But there's also more subtle ways of it happening too, like kids getting just the bad information and developing a low self-image, and just that compounding and
it compounds, and then something sets it off.
Yeah.
They're in front of their class and they do something stupid, and suddenly all of their they're not affirmations because affirmation is positive, but all the ideas that they've been fed now they come true.
Or they pick up and get high.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many. Well, yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
No, and that's the thing. So to be honest with you, I mean, here I have a book, and I've done hundreds of interviews about the book worldwide, and I have no symptoms of any kind. I live well. I eat well. I'm not, I do my exercise is taking my dog out for a quarter mile to a mile a day. I don't look buff like you do, I look like a typical musician, just not like this, so my PTSD is a kind that was, for a lack of a better word, temporary. Believe me, Scott, and people out there, 2 years was enough to know I don't ever want to have it again.
Yeah.
So we're now almost 20 years later already, right? 94.
Yeah, but you know what, Jamie, you've done the work. I mean, you've and you depict the amount of work that you put into your recovery from this, and you walk the fucking walk, man. There's nothing short of that. You're out there, so generous with your story and your truth to help other people. I mean, and that's really, that keeps you in the game. That keeps you grateful, and it's a requirement, basically. Though you have to be that all in.
The thing is that things have changed. I think that if you said what you just said 20 years ago, I'd be sitting here like my ego would be all built up because, well, Jamie did a nice thing. Right? Yeah. I was like from that school. Well, I'm going to give a chinchilla rescue $2,000 and let everybody know I did.
Right, that's right.
Right, but I ain't like that no more.
It diminishes the deed, right?
Yes, it does. But I mean,
the chinchilla's grateful.
Yeah, that's grateful. Yeah. But I'm looking at you on Skype, and was watching you speak, and all I could think of when you were saying such nice things about what I do or who I am, is how fortunate I am to know you. How fortunate I am to have an opportunity to help others. Now, and the minute I started to think that, Scott, I got even happier, because I realized I'm happy about being happy. So and that's what I was saying earlier with the hamster wheel. If you're on a wheel and you're depressed or you're sad or you're broke or you're this or whatever, you're on a wheel, and there's no way to get off unless you get off, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Getting off is really difficult.
Yep, but it's doable.
But it's positively doable.
Yeah,
it's positively doable. Yep. I am an example of that, and I haven't done anything yet. I'm gonna.
You are, but let me tell you something. Just thank you for those nice words. But I'm honored, man. I'm flabbergasted to be here talking with you. I mean, I admire you for what you do. I have a great respect for what you do. This, as great as your music career is, and I said this to you earlier too. I mean, it speaks for itself. Your accomplishments musically speak for themselves. I mean, but this stuff, I mean, to me, it again, it changes everything, man. It changes everything. If they say that we have like people that my thing is with the drugs and alcohol, so my dark hole was dark. I mean, and yours is yours, but it's like this void. There's just something there that needs to be filled up, and whatever happens, we think that this patch is going to work, or that,
Yeah.
And there's one thing that does it, man, and that's doing the service for other people, man. And they call it a God-shaped hole. Call God whatever you want. I had this talk with my niece last night. I love this little kid, man. She's great. Just about like just being, to be open-minded, man. Just to you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Never mind next week, next month, next year. And you're so young. I don't expect you to get what I'm trying to say.
Wow.
It's taken me for a lifetime, man, and I'm lucky to be alive. There's no way you could tell me at 19 what I'm just beginning to understand now. And by the grace of God, here I am, and I'm starting to see, the whole feminine thing too. I just wanted to get this thing, that whole thing. It's so lost. That was the other breakthrough therapy-wise. When a therapist says to me, about you're so defined by your masculinity, and why don't you take a look at the feminist? And right away I'm like, whoa, the wall goes right up. Like, what the hell are you saying,
you're
man?
Super sensitive. I was drawn to you the first time we talked before I met you in New York, but the
but it's acknowledging it and understanding it for what it is, so that you can be a whole person.
This sounds horrible, maybe, but the effeminate side for me seems to be the appreciative side. The masculine side is the doer, the
arrogant
achiever,
fighter.
I don't know. Yeah, well, that's what.
All part of that, though.
The other side, and you are like super appreciative. All of this that you've gone through, I've gone through. I'm sure people who are watching have gone through. I just posted on Facebook a couple of days ago about a Les Paul guitar. Did you happen to see that?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you the reason. I don't know if I want to tell the whole story. I'll tell the whole story very quickly. There's a great musician I met. He's from Houston, Texas. His name is Steve Ruff, and he's on Facebook. We started to talk to each other. He messaged me. Yeah. He wanted me for a guitar lesson, whatever. Anyway, one day he says to me, "What do you think of Les Paul guitar?" And I said, well, I was very emotional. That was the last guitar I pawned in the 90s. I had a beautiful 1969 gold top Les Paul.
For those people, the Dwayne Allman one, right? The gold top.
This one, right here. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is a beauty.
Yeah, it is.
I pawned one like this for $60, which is now worth about $15,000. So, Steve Ruff says to me, "What do you think of Les Paul?" So I said, well, I started to get emotional, as I was saying, and I lost it like this, and I was in trouble in the 90s, and I wrote a book about it, blah, 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 blah. He says, "Can you give me your address? I want to send you a Christmas card." I said, "Yeah, sure. Here's my address." So a couple of weeks later, I get a call from UPS. And, Jamie, we have a giant box here sent from Texas. Would you please come down and get it? I said, "I don't know anybody in Texas. So it must be the wrong thing." He said, "No, come down. It's addressed to you. It's correct." So I go down, I open the box, and inside the box is a vintage Les Paul guitar case. I open the thing up, and there's a gold top 1967, 69, 70 Les Paul. The one you just saw.
The very one you pawned.
No, it's not the one I pawned.
Okay.
However, so Steve Ruff was at a school called GIT, Guitar Institute. It's part of the Musicians Institute in LA. And his roommate in college died of cancer while they were in school. Or he was dying while they were in school. He said to Steve, he said, "I want you to take my Les Paul, and I want you to pass it on to someone who's going to love it, who's going to play it, who's going to understand its spirit,
wow,
and who's going to give it the respect that it deserves." So Steve sent me this guitar. He didn't know me even. And that's that guitar.
Unbelievable.
It's a guy I met on Facebook. And maybe I had 2 messages with him before.
That's amazing.
Cherish this guitar. The point of this, aside from this amazing story, how can you not be grateful when shit like this happens to you? But anyway, I I wrote on Facebook at the day the Les Paul arrived, Steve Ruff's Les Paul, which by the way, I named Ruffus. That was the day, the guilt that I had for all of those years, 23 years, about taking my delicious, beautiful, vintage instruments and giving them all away, basically. I had Jimi Hendrix's Strat neck, $80 for an $8,000 guitar. Everything's gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when this guitar arrived and I opened the case and I played it, I said, that's it. The guilt is over. And this was something you talked about a few minutes ago with the God hole and all that. It says, you know, now it took, you said that it took a long time for recovery, and it does. And there's a part of you that needs to maybe always kind of remember like that, or nothing gets fixed, right? So
yeah,
I didn't even realize till I opened that case, this intense, annoying, hurtful guilt that I felt, the embarrassment for being ill, the embarrassment for not knowing how to save money, the embarrassment of everything. And then this stranger, this angel from Houston, Texas, who's a very talented composer, guitarist, changed everything. And then I said, okay, I lost.
Like they came down and just fucking pulled your shame right out of you.
That's it. And that's it. And so a lot of people who are in recovery, I have a lot of friends in there, you know, in the music business after all, who are on drugs and alcohol and all kinds of stuff. And that's one of the biggest parts, is getting rid of the guilt. The day they slept in the street, the day they stole some money, the day they cursed out their mother. I mean, I heard everything. He said, the thing is, you make amends.
And
do
you
the best.
own your truth.
You own your truth.
And you don't define yourself by your past.
So that's why, though I've not needed 12-step for those reasons, it's extremely helpful.
You are the real deal.
Thank you so much.
Listen, we got to do this again, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for allowing me on the roof, even though I'm sitting in a chair at the moment. And to everybody who's watched us, thank you, and please support Scott's show.
Jamie, you're the best, man. Thank you so much.
Have a good day, my friend.
You too. Thanks. We'll be in touch.
Okay, bye for now.
All right.